Hey humans, welcome back or welcome to Conversations with Thomas. I'm your host, Thomas Kevin Dolan. Pronouns are he and him. I'm recording this on the sacred lands of Hawaii, the ancestral home of the Kanaka Maoli. I offer deep respect to the original stewards of these islands, whose wisdom, resilience, and aloha continue to shape this place. With Conversations with Thomas, I take big human messiness, swirl it with a little soul, some science, a side of sass, and somehow find the sacred in the everyday. Today's episode is called From Pressure to Power, Choice versus Decision. Because let's be honest, most of us spend a lot of time making decisions under pressure. Sweating over the small stuff, running on autopilot, and pretending that everything's fine while inside we're screaming. But what if I told you there's a way to move from that pressure into your power, to choose first and then decide with confidence? That's what we're unpacking today. What's the difference? A decision is often reactive. Should I do this or that? What makes the most sense? Will this keep me safe, acceptable, unbothered? It's often made with the brain. And let's be honest, the anxiety committee in your brain. Choice, on the other hand, is deeper. It's a declaration of identity. It says, this is who I am. This is who I'm becoming. It comes from truth, not pressure. Choice informs your decisions. And when it doesn't, we usually end up with decisions that feel safe but small, smart but soul-sucking, logical but lifeless. And let me tell you, logic without soul is like salad without dressing. Technically, it's food, but no one's really excited about it. I love this quote from Bell Hooks. I will not have my life narrowed down. I will not bow down to somebody else's whim or to someone else's ignorance. Let me chat a little bit about the brain science. This is what I call the brain science break. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio found that we literally can't make decisions without emotional input. Feelings are what gives facts meaning. Your brain asks, does this matter? And your feelings answer, hell yes or nope. Also, decision fatigue is a real psychological condition. When you're constantly reacting or calculating and people-pleasing your way through choices, your brain actually gets depleted. It gets depleted. But when you choose to move from your center, when you choose with clarity, decisions become easier. Like your compass is already set. Let me stop for a moment here, a little mini promo. And this is me talking about coaching. Ever say yes to something and immediately hear your inner voice go, oh no, we're not doing this again? That's not choice. That's pressure dressed up in productivity. Coaching with me isn't about hustle. It's about remembering who you are before the pressure made you forget. Let's get you out of default mode and back into your power. Kind of ding, ding, ding. Inviting you to book your discovery call at thomaskevindolan.com. Let's choose on purpose. Okay, back to the podcast. Here's a story from my life. It's actually from my memoir, Little Fag, A Journey of Self-Acceptance and Healing. In elementary school, I was that kid, the kid who peed his pants. Not because I wanted to, because I was terrified to raise my hand and ask to use the bathroom. I didn't feel safe enough to speak. And it wasn't just about the classroom. It was about what was happening at home. The violence, the silence, the invisible rules, don't ask, don't feel, don't need. My teacher, bless her, eventually noticed and told me I could just leave the classroom. That helped, but even then, It was terrifying to simply go because I hadn't yet chosen to believe I mattered. At home, no one ever asked why I went to bed. The sheets were soaked. The shame was heavy, but the silence was louder. So instead, I became the perfect kid, the quiet one, the one who needed nothing, the one who believed survival meant silence. But then, as I approached high school, I made a different kind of move. Most of my siblings had gone to a particular high school in Calgary. It would have been the logical decision to follow, but I made a choice to go somewhere else. It wasn't approved, it wasn't expected, but it was mine. That one quiet, resolute choice that changed the entire trajectory of my life. It would probably be the biggest miracle I had experienced in my life. Yes, of course, it was terrifying to leave one quadrant of the city and go completely to another, know nobody, and yet it's where I belonged. It changed my life. It was a choice I made with my heart. Let me talk a little bit about spiritual and wisdom traditions, including Buddhism, the Middle Way. They all remind us that a decision is often about duality, right, wrong, this, that. Choice, however, can arise from a middle path, a place of presence, discernment, and actually detachment from outcome. With indigenous wisdom, many traditions here in Hawaii, one is called Ho'oponopono, or Lakota, or Andean cosmology, speak of living in right relationship with land, spirit, and certainly others. Choice here is relational, sacred, and it's actually rooted in profoundly deep listening, not individualistic or ego-driven. You do not choose alone. The land, the ancestors, and the unseen also speak. That's inspired by indigenous wisdom. It's probably one of the reasons I love most having the privilege of living on this island of Oahu. There is so much inspiration from the indigenous folk here. We're reminded we're not here to perform perfection. We're here to live in alignment. Decision is action, but choice, listen to this, choice is orientation. It's a kind of inner vow. I choose to honor who I am becoming, even when it's scary, even when it disappoints others, even when nobody claps. In healing work, especially trauma recovery, that shift from reacting to choosing is monumental. Because for so many of us, we didn't feel like we had choices. Healing is reclaiming that choice, choosing to rest, to speak, to leave, to stop being the good kid if it's killing your joy. Audre Lorde shared this wisdom. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid. So let's try this out together. Think about a decision you're facing, big or small, something with a little pressure around it. And then go ahead and pause. So you're thinking about a decision you're facing right now, something that has a little pressure around it. Go ahead and pause. And then I want you to ask yourself, what part of me is trying to decide this? What part of you is trying to decide this? Is it fear? Habit? Is it performance? Ask this to close out this process. If I choose from truth, not pressure, what would I already know? I want you to notice how your body responds when you choose from the truth of your becoming. That's what I call your body compass. It's something I teach in my coaching practice. It's learning to reconnect with the sensations, which are always a truth, in our bodies and being able to actually respond and move with life from that place. Answering these questions isn't just about making a better decision. It's actually about learning to hear your own truth again. Because these reflections help you discern your inner voice, and that discernment is from the noise of expectations and fear. These reflections help you interrupt default patterns, those unconscious habits that quietly run your life. These reflections help you build self-trust by honoring what feels true in your body, not just what sounds logical in that gorgeous mind of yours. These reflections help you actually reclaim your agency, especially if you've lived a life shaped by people pleasing like I have, or survival like I have. When you pause to explore what's beneath your choices, you don't just change your actions, you change your orientation to life. Isn't that cool? You change your orientation to life. You begin to live on purpose from the inside out. And that, my friend, is where freedom begins. I thought I would plunk because a number of folks that have listened to my podcast before have asked for some journaling questions or reflective questions that they can take actually away with them to explore in some quiet time for themselves. So here are a few of those. I call them journaling or reflection questions to explore when you're off on your own and breathing in a little bit more to what it is that I've shared in this podcast. The first one is this: is this coming from pressure or peace? Am I choosing this or defaulting to it? So when you think about the decision that you're making right now or wanting to make, or that choice that you wanted to make, is this coming from pressure or peace? Am I choosing this or defaulting to it? What would I choose if I wasn't afraid of disappointing anyone? Who do I want to become? And does that move honor that? Is this a full body yes or a mental obligation? And finally, for that choice or decision you're about to make, this question: would I still make this choice if no one applauded it? So pause, reflect. I'm going to suggest you might be surprised by what comes through. Some closing wisdom. Here's what I'm encouraging you to remember today. A decision is what you do. A choice is who you are. One reacts, the other reveals. This world will clap for your decisions, especially the shiny ones. But your soul will sing for your choices. So don't just chase outcomes. Move from pressure to power. Choose orientation. Choose from truth, not pressure. And let your decisions follow like little loyal ducklings. Let me share a medley of metaphors that flowed to me as I began to conceive of this podcast theme. And they're these: decision as a fork in the road, choice as the compass. Decision is what you do, choice is where you come from. Decisions can be outsourced, choice can only come from within. Should I? Is the voice of decision. Am I aligned? Is the voice of choice. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Conversations with Thomas. If something stirred in you, and I really, really intend for it to be stirred in you, I'm going to invite you to share it with someone who's actually standing at a crossroads in their life. And if you're ready to stop sweating the small stuff and start owning your power, I'd love to walk beside you. This podcast is alchemized from heart, healing, a dash of science, and the occasional existential spiral when tech misbehaves. Executive production, that's me and my brilliant husband, Adam Ma, who transforms my voice notes, midnight musings, and philosophical ramblings into something almost coherent. We're a two-human studio powered by love, wonder, and at times an unreasonable amount of chocolate. And yet we don't complain. Until next time, choose bravely, choose gently, choose you.